Story 1. To put it simply, she checked every other box. And sometimes she added things I didn't even know I liked. Being with her was an experience that opened my eyes to a lot of things, and likewise, I showed her a lot in kind. She was the best part of my life to date, and I miss her dearly. She made me dance. She made me sing. Both things I never would have done before meeting her, because they opposed the tough aesthetic that I was always trying to build on. Furthermore, I enjoyed it. She made me a better person than I had been previously, even though I always prided myself on trying to be the best at everything I did. Even when I fell short, she didn't judge me for it. She loved me for it because I tried, and in kind, she tried for me. Our relationship was never perfect, but we never wanted it to be anyway. Edit. Thank you all for your support. I don't deserve it though. We all have struggles. I'm just getting through the days. I can't offer anything in return, so I guess I'll just share this for anyone who needs to hear it. Story 2. When I asked my boyfriend why he is with me, as I am not his type, he said that I am unusual enough to make up for it. Not exactly sure what that means, but I took it as a compliment. Story 3. I was the sheltered church boy and she was the shy goth girl. I had just gotten rejected, and we decided to go as friends to the homecoming dance. My dad dared me to ask her to a chili cook-off right before the dance. Now we're married. Story 4. I always went for cute girls who are shorter than me and traditionally attractive. But then I met my current girlfriend, who is lankier and, in the sweetest sense possible, more awkward looking through Tinder, and she had my heart on the first date because she was just so funny and sweet. I think she's the most beautiful girl in the world, but I also know that if I saw her in a supermarket without knowing her, I would think she's just pretty but not my type. You should never settle, at least I think, for someone who you don't think is attractive, but a lot of times, first impressions change very fast. People's looks grow on you when their heart does. The girl who I would have written off as not my type is the love of my life and the most beautiful thing on earth to me now. Story 5. When I was younger, I was primarily attracted to girls who liked all the same movies and music I did. Once, I dated a girl I was convinced was the one because we both liked Radiohead. My fiancé and I have almost opposite tastes, but it actually works way better because you end up expanding your interests and trying things you usually wouldn't. You also realize when it comes to having a long and healthy relationship, that's not the stuff that really matters. Story 6. My current relationship started as a long-distance relationship, and because of that, we only really had texting and Snapchat. That was the only way we really talked, and because of that, we got to know each other extremely well. After that, looks didn't really matter because in the past, I had only dated skinny white girls, and she is a heavier-set Latina woman. Story 7. Well, prior to meeting my wife, I had maybe 3 or 4 steady girlfriends who were all pretty different. I don't know what my type was. This was over 25 years ago, but I remember I liked tall girls. My ex-girlfriends were all like metal girls with big hair and acid-wash jeans from the late 1980s and early 1990s. My wife is short, and she was like a quirky little alternative girl in a big military jacket and Doc Martens with black hair. I don't know, the more I picture my wife at 19, the more I'm not qualified for this question. Story 8. I'm a pretty good-sized dude, like 6'1", 255 pounds. It was a running joke in college that I only dated girls who could fit in my pocket, as the few girls I did date were all around 5 feet tall and 100 pounds. These girls I dated were always more shy and reserved, as am I, which is what usually attracted me to them. After college, I did the online dating thing for a while, meeting and dating a couple of girls who, for the most part, matched the same physical description. One of these girls accompanied me to a sort of reunion weekend with college friends, and I heard a lot of comments about how she fit the description. Not long after that girl and I broke up, I matched with a girl who was taller and caviar than the petite girls I had dated. We have a couple of kids and have been married for over 10 years now. Story 9. After several years of unfortunate relationships that never lasted more than 2 to 3 years, I gave up dating. I seriously went long-term with gorgeous women, but they were all severely damaged emotionally. So I just gave up and quit. I was happily living my single life, being an awesome single dad to my kids, and learned to love taking solo vacations when I could. I had flings and a few friends with benefits. I never got lonely, even when I was alone. Then my sister set me up with one of her coworkers. I honestly wasn't ready for anything serious, but she was kind, sweet, quirky, thoughtful, and an amazing cook. We had different interests but enough in common to get along. It wasn't the fiery, hot and heavy, fall madly in love type of relationship that I had always had in the past. It was a friendly, slow burn that allowed us to be ourselves and learn more about each other. It's not perfect, but it's been 5 years of the most content, caring, and mutually respectful relationship I've ever known. Long story short, learn to be happy in your own skin. Learn to be happy alone, and it makes it a lot better when you find someone who deserves you. Story 10. Neither my wife nor I are each other's type, like polar opposites. We met in college. The sex was great and we laughed a lot. 20 years later, the sex is still great and we still laugh a lot. At this point, it's irrelevant what visual traits we prefer in the opposite sex. Story 11. I was accustomed to dating women who were thin and athletic, but who ended up being horrid human beings who were usually some combination of selfish, immature, abusive, broke, uncommunicative, mentally ill, or violent. I've been with a woman for almost a year now who is a bit overweight, but who has been a sweet and loving person just about every day to me since our first date. She is simply amazing at her career, organizing events, gardening, entertaining guests, cooking, gardening, and doing things for my kids. The only thing I want to do when I'm not being a single dad is stay at her house for days at a time. She's beautiful whenever we go out on a date. I don't notice or care about her body mass index at all. My family, friends, kids, and I all love her to death. I'm glad I took a chance on someone who was a bit heavier than women I would typically seek a relationship with. I may just have to marry her soon. Somebody said it earlier in this thread. Looks fade, but character is forever. Story 12. Dated lots of beautiful women who I really felt never truly loved me. They'd say they did, but it always felt transactional. Like I needed to do this or that for them, or else they'd probably leave me. I played poker for a living for many years, and it didn't help that they'd know I would win $5,000 in a night. Word gets around in the poker room when you're crushing the tables. Had an ex who I was dating for 2 years. She played poker and was a winner and didn't gamble in the pits as far as I knew. She blew through $140,000 of my money in 2 hours at the baccarat tables when I left for the weekend to raid with my World of Warcraft guild. Apparently, she used to be a degenerate gambler back in the day, and suddenly it came back. She left me when I stopped giving her access to my money. So years later, after feeling betrayed and damaged, I put myself on OkCupid and met a pharmacist. She's attractive but not anywhere near as physically beautiful as my exes. This girl has been with me through thick and thin. All she wants is for me to love her and spend time with her. She likes me for me and accepts my flaws. She doesn't ask for material things, and now that I'm literally at the lowest in my life, she is helping me through college. She's a keeper, and I'm lucky to have found someone like her. She's more beautiful to me than all of my exes put together. Going on 5 years now with her. Will propose when I finish school and can support her. Story 13. Kind of the opposite for me, in which I ended up with women who were aesthetically my type but just didn't mesh beyond that aspect. For me, I've come to realize how important similar hobbies, values, and communication matter more than anything else. Sure, the physical aspects are nice, but even then, sexual chemistry is important and isn't always there with someone who I'm aesthetically attracted to. We kind of build our types as we get older and look for those when we are young, but that's where the struggle always begins first. With age and experience, I learned it's not about finding that aesthetic type and more about opening ourselves up to all possibilities. When I started doing that, I realized all the wonderful people I missed out on because I was pursuing my type the whole time. Putting that limit on yourself, for looks alone, just isn't smart to do when it comes to actually figuring out what it is you're looking for in a person, because the reality is that looks disappear. They're gone, and what's left over, if you're lucky, is what you're going to be spending the rest of your life with. Obviously, it's important to have standards for ourselves when it comes to a person's aesthetic, but keep in mind that's probably the least important aspect when it comes to looking for a life partner. We are always changing, physically and emotionally, daily. There are late bloomers. There are people who peak early physically. There are people who mature later or sooner. There are people who lose interest in things, then find a new hobby over time. We are never finished products, ever. So keep an open mind is what I learned if you're single. You'll always be surprised at who you may fall for and discover. Story 14. I have some perspective from a different angle. I was the girlfriend who wasn't the guy's type. My type is big, burly men. Tough-looking guys with a goofy side make me weak in the knees. He, as a bouncer, fit that description perfectly. I'm slim, cerebral, and certainly not a party girl. He was into girls with big breasts, big personalities who could dance the night away with him. That wasn't me at all, but I think I was the most conventionally pretty, sane woman that not only liked him but actively pursued him. We were together for 2.5 years, and the whole time I knew my body didn't turn him on like it should. I can't remember him ever directly complimenting it during that entire time, and it was really hard for me. He'd say things like, "Hello, beautiful," or "Hey, hot stuff," but he never once looked me directly in the face and said, "You look so sexy right now." I felt like I amused him, but he didn't find me especially charming or interesting. His friends considered me out of his league, but in a way, I felt like he settled for me. There were some other minor factors, but this was the biggest reason I finally ended it. My boyfriend now, another big, bearded goofball, is actually super into my body and my mind, and it's like night and day. I feel sexy every time I'm around him, even if I'm unshowered in pajamas. He makes sure to tell me when I'm driving him nuts, which I do intentionally on a regular basis just because I miss that feeling so much. Sure, looks fade and bodies change. Maybe not everyone is lucky enough to be physically and mentally attracted to the person they're with, but I don't think anything beats that combination. Story 15. I was going down a self-destructive path. Met my girlfriend through mutual friends. She did not party, drink, or do drugs, but did ask me out. I said yes and decided I needed the boring stability that she provided so that I did not crash and burn. Been together almost 20 years now. Don't get me wrong, there are arguments and disagreements, and you're not always going to win. But the end result is that it's okay to disagree. And it's okay to not get what you want all the time. Compromise. Be able to tell each other what you dislike about each other and be okay with hearing it. Basically, be an adult and your relationship can last forever. It's not all sunshine and lollipops, but it's life. Story 16. It's hard enough finding people of quality and genuine good character. Why complicate it further by adding things like height, style, and hair color to the mix? Those things simply don't compare to what's really important. Story 17. Not a guy myself, but can very much relate. My husband and I were very much out of each other's norm of type. He was a short country boy and I was a fairly taller than average emo chick. He mostly dated black chicks a few years older than him. I mostly dated taller than I, also emo douchebags. We met at school, I was the new chick. He saw me one day and his friend dared him to ask me out. He did the dare, I didn't know it was a dare at the time, I said yes. We went out after school and it was actually the best evening I had ever had. He was incredibly kind and respectful. We started officially dating the next day. He asked me during lunch hour, made a whole scene about it. Stood up and asked me very loudly in front of everyone else to be his girlfriend. When he and I first started dating, we would get stares a lot if we were in public and was weird how many times we got told, "You don't look like a pair who would be a couple." It's been 9 years now. We moved across the country together and have entered adulthood together and have been building a life together. It's crazy to think about when I look back. Story 18. Ended up with someone significantly better looking than my track record. Also, she doesn't hit me or didn't end up in a mental hospital, both literally and different girls. Most had bad relationships with parents, etc. But beyond looks, she's a hard worker, wants to progress in life, great personality, not socially awkward. Couldn't be happier. Story 19. I realized what was actually important to me, and aesthetics wasn't really one of them when it came down to it. And she has surprised me by having interests I wouldn't, and most people don't, expect. Story 20. Turns out, being an intelligent, hilarious, kind, hardworking person with goals and ambition, and who is dedicated to their relationship and lifestyle, is a massive turn-on. Who knew? Story 21. Totally unexpected. I realized that having a type is just because of the things society pushes as a norm when it shouldn't be. Also, you don't choose someone because of her appearance, you choose them because of the substance. But that's just the type of gamer I am. Story 22. I had only been in relationships with women for many years. I broke up with my girlfriend and decided I had not been sexual with a man in many years. I picked him because he was too young for me and understood it would just be physical. He was a math and science guy who loves magic, the gathering and math jokes. We have been married 2 years last month.